And thank you so much for coming in to speak to us. Now, gender-based violence has been in the headlines for a very long time, not just this year, although we've had some horrendous stories to make the headlines as well. This increase, as reported by the South African Council of Educators just last week, is extremely worrying, and that's an understatement.
I think it is, but I think it's always been there. I think we must be grateful that the reporting has increased. Because
why do you think that is?
I think there's more openness in society, and I think there's been more education done. I think especially with children, they're more aware of their rights, although I would have to say the majority don't report and neither do their parents. So we have this terrible what can you say, problem of a lack of reporting. So I'm quite happy to see that there's an increase in the numbers, although it's devastating because those children are so sadly affected.
And the stories just keep on coming. Just
all the time.
This past weekend, there was a talk of sexual abuse charges over a teacher at a school, a well-to-do school in Cape Town. Last year, we had the story coming out of Parktown Boys, a sex predator there who was a sports coach. Those two stories, however, coming out of well-to-do schools, where you probably think you've got a better chance of these things being reported. What then of the majority of our schools that are not well-to-do or posh, as some would call them?
Absolutely, although we must be careful, because if you take the Parktown Boys case, there was a lot of grooming that took place. So we mustn't ever underestimate how clever the sexual predator is. But yes, you would expect more to be reported. However, what we have to do, and I think this is where we all have to work together, is to help children to know what their rights are, but to make sure that the school itself has policies and practices in place to protect children.
Now these kinds of schools that I speak of, I know for a fact that they have systems where teachers need to do fingerprinting, and they get vetted, and they make sure that they don't have a record that would prevent them from being able to be teachers. What then of our government schools? What can they do, and what do you know is in place?
Well, I think that a lot needs to be done. We personally have been working on this issue since 2012 in the schools we have. We have independent and public schools. And so every school is expected to have a policy. But a policy means nothing if it's not implemented. And that is the big challenge. Will a teacher report their colleague when they know their colleague is doing something wrong? And the major issue for us is that often there's a cover-up, and people are unwilling to report.
So or the school decides to deal with it internally instead of going to the authorities.
Well, legally they're not supposed to. Sexual assault or abuse of any description is reportable to the police according to our law. But if I know you and you're my colleague and I don't want you to lose your job,
or I don't want to bring the school into disrepute.
Exactly. But I think more than that, parents collude as well. I think, and SACE will tell you that in their investigations, they've also found parents being paid off.
Wow, that's extremely worrying.
No, it's extremely.
What does this do then to our safe spaces? We've got so few of them left. It was believed that the church is one, a school being the other, but we're finding that not to be true. What does this do in terms of the psychology of a child that now is being made aware that not even at school can you let your guard down?
I think that we have to build a climate in schools of consideration, respect, that we do have to try and make them safe. That's the bottom line. And I think the government's working quite hard on that as well. But it's a ponderous system to get going. We have to make sure that teachers are held accountable for their actions, but we also have to have leadership that sets the tone in schools. Look, violence will break out. We've had violence, but sexual assault is what is a big problem, and it's not just about the teachers. Sexual assault, learner on learner, is incredibly high.
That too.
In fact, I heard of a case just last week of a grade 1 girl sexually assaulting grade 1 boy. So now I can make your heart just stop.
Yeah. But a reflection of our society.
Yes. What happened to that little girl? You see, this is where teachers need to learn how to look beyond. It's not something that we must punish. It's what's happening here.
What's the root cause?
Exactly, and it's probably sexual abuse on that little girl herself. But we have to educate everybody around it and make sure that there are social workers that can pick it up, that the police do their job, that they're not called child protection units anymore, they're family violence and community and violence units, but they need to be there for the schools. And we need to educate leadership to take the action and make schools safe places. We don't have a choice. You are quite right. There is no safe space for our children. They're not safe at home, they're not safe at school, they're not safe in the community. So we have to send out a message that we are going to work together as community to make our schools safe.
Thank you so much for your time. Anna Baker is the Deputy Director of the Catholic Institute of Education. Very worrying indeed that those safe spaces are disappearing as we speak. Thank you for your time.